Thanks for checking out another clip of the Cashflow Contractor. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. Click subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
We've really talked about this before, but it's coming up right now. As a matter of fact, I've received 2 phone calls and I know what they're about. This idea of keeping people around, I guess we've talked about it a lot, but it's so. We're going to have a guest on in the next month or so who's really big into this. But 2 things: how do you measure people? There are objective measurements like you got to turn out 45 widgets a day. That's your job, or your attitude. You got to fit in. Guy does 50 a day, but everybody hates him and he causes trouble and all this. So 1, how do you evaluate people? Okay. Then 2, how do you value objectively is pretty easy because everybody can count. Subjectively is not so easy. Should we evaluate people? That's literally a question that's out there. Should we evaluate?
Well, do you evaluate people? I think is a big one. I mean, I don't see a lot of companies doing quarterly, semi-annual, annual reviews.
Well, I'm just talking about, we'll have some interesting stuff. I'm reading a book our guest wrote. And that's one of the things they talk about, anyway, should you evaluate people, which seemed like pretty obvious to me. They need some feedback, but I don't know. We'll see what he says. And then how do you use that evaluation? And then once you've evaluated somebody, and this is what's happening in 2 of my clients this week, really, is that person's got to go. And I'm not. So, do you try to change them? Do you try to work with them? Do you try, drag it out? The common feeling that the boss has that I wasn't fair. I didn't give him enough training. I didn't give him enough time. Not everybody has that, but a lot do. And they wind up keeping somebody around until it finally got to go. And that's what the 2 phone calls I got this morning are. And I'm anxious to see what happened.
But I mean, I think with evaluation, my opinion has always been that it needs to be evaluated from both sides. Like you need to evaluate the employee, but the employee also needs to evaluate themselves.
Right.
And that, I think inside of that, with the objective and the subjective, you have to do objective metrics, measuring their job. How many calls did you make today? How many jobs did you complete? How many bills were invoiced? What was data to collect? What are the objective metrics for this role, right? Then you also need to have ratings. Let the person rate themselves. A scale of, and I do scales 1 to 3. 3 is exceeding expectations, 2 is meeting expectations, 1 is underperforming expectations. But you can do a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 5, whatever you want, but let them rate themselves on a scale and then ask them why they chose that rating. Then that opens the opportunity for you to give your subjective feedback, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you are doing the evaluation. That's how I approach it. Then the last thing that I'll say, you mentioned how do you fire or whatever it is. I think a couple questions I think about are 1, if I could, would I hire this person again?
Right.
If you can't say, if you can't say yes to that question, you have to go. You have to let go. You have to.
Well, that's one of the places where it's really hard and I'm thinking a bunch of guys out there listening go, that's not hard for me. You're out of here. Well, I will say the majority, a big majority,
it's hard for me.
Don't feel that way. Yeah, they don't feel that way. And they let that, I didn't define it. And that's one thing we'll talk about with this man in the future. But how do you define the subjective standards? Because if you want to talk about fair, and I almost hate that word, but it's fair, the objective, because I told you have to do 50.
Yeah.
50 is a number starting on Monday, and by Friday at 5:30, they have to be 50 in the box or the bin. The stuff about being a team player and being polite, I mean, how do you define that, without getting too far in the weeds? And then sometimes you don't agree, and that's what's going to happen in this morning. And I'm the boss, and you're not. And I think we talked about this, you're still doing it, you're gone.
I think that performance plans don't typically work. The only time I think they would work is if the performance plan is for you. hey, I'm the owner and I didn't give you the resources. I didn't give you the training. I didn't give you the expectations at all. I need the performance plan to be doing those things more regularly, right?
Yeah.
That's the only case in which I think it can work. Otherwise, move on. And I think this goes back, we mentioned this a while back. Elon Musk talked about in a podcast with Lex Friedman about his AI Grok and how they were building it out. And Elon said, looking at the process, I always try to eliminate 10% more than necessary.
Yeah.
Right.
If you
So
did, you haven't been tight enough. Yeah.
So, imagine you have a crew or you have multiple crews inside your business. Let's say you have 7 crews and you're looking at how you service people and you really need 5 to actually do the job. That would be like removing 3 of them and going to 4 crews rather than 5 and seeing if you can make it work, because you can always add the crew back and 1 crew back. Same thing in this case. It's probably better to eliminate the job, right? And then have to go and hire again for it, right? Than it is to maybe, because I think that's the big concern with a lot of people. Well, how am I going to get the work done without this person? They're not great. They're not someone I want to keep around, but I don't want to deal with the pain of having to operate without someone in place, right? Or the pain of having to go through the application process again, whatever it is. Well, go ahead and eliminate and see what happens, because you can always find something as a solution to add back.
Well, there'll be some listeners going, well, you can't always, it's hard to find guys, but people find guys.
People find guys. And yeah, maybe you can be tactical and have the job open and hiring for it while the person's still there, so you're not left in shambles.
Thanks for checking out a clip from the Cashflow Contractor. We have full episodes where we go deep on topics that help you grow a construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, more money. Now, we've got other videos, other clips, but if you want to check out the full episode for this clip, you can click wherever our editor put it. It might be here, it might be there, it might be over my face, I don't know. But thank you for checking us out. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. So subscribe or check out a full episode wherever you get podcasts.